these ayat are over decades, if not centuries of conversation. Don't assume that Nuh alayhi salam is mentioning this as if it happened in one day. Like these conversations happened over decades and maybe centuries, as Nuh alayhi salam lived for almost 1,000 years. So you must appreciate this is ongoing conversation, ongoing da'wah. And every ayah will speak of this, that Nuh alayhi salam is using all the means available to him through his mind, his ijtihad, and through wahi to convince his people to believe in Allah, in the Akhirah, and in Islam. So he says in the previous ayah, مَا لَكُمْ لَا تَرْجُونَ لِلَّهِ وَقَارًا وَقَدْ خَلَقَكُمْ أَطْوَارًا. That Allah, first of all, you must use your ability to observe creation and observe creation in yourselves by appreciating the different phases that He has brought you through and created you in. As I mentioned, your being in the mother's womb, then coming out from the mother's womb, then becoming an infantile and a baby, and then your childhood, and then your adolescence, and then your adult life, and then your old life, and then death. So Allah has created you through these various phases, and that is how creation happens. It's always going to be slow. It's not going to be instant. So that's the first one. The second one is this one. أَلَمْ تَرَوْا كَيْفَ خَلَقَ اللَّهُ سَبْعَ سَمَاوَاتٍ طِبَاقًا. That don't you see how Allah has created the 7 heavens, one above the other. طِبَاقًا, طَبَقًا, floors also. That one layer above the other layer, and there are 7 of them, and you can see that creation when you observe the sky at night and think about the celestial beings, but use your ability to see and observe and think. So use your mind in terms of looking at empirical evidence of Allah's ayat and signs and creation, but you must think about them. Use the mental abilities that Allah has given you and make observations that are in line with true reality, and they're not lying to you. So that's number one about the skies. So look at the skies and the heavens as the supreme creation of Allah, that Allah creates the heavens without any amad, without any support, without any pillar. So it's a pillarless kind of construct, and that is amazing. You can't have a house in the world that is not standing on something. The walls and the roof is standing on the walls, but here you have this whole canopy, a roof over your heads, and there's no, what do you call it, nothing there to hold it. So think about this. How is this done? And then he moves on to the other creations of Allah within the heavens. وَجَعَلَ الْقَمَرَ فِيهِنَّ نُورًا وَجَعَلَ الشَّمْسَ سِرَاجًا. And then he has placed the moon in the heavens as a means of light and as nur. So he placed nur, that the light of the moon helps you navigate, helps you with your tides and your waves, helps you with fruit and flowers, and helps you in so many different ways. And don't you see how there is a celestial being being suspended in mid-air, just above you, and it does everything for you. Now, who does that? Who has the ability to do this? So he's going to refute the idea of their idols later on. He's laying down the foundation to say this is only through a being who has knowledge and power. وَجَعَلَ الشَّمْسَ سِرَاجًا, and he has made the sun as a lamp, something that is hot, where the nur of the moon is not hot, but it is nur, it is light. And the light from the sun is blazing, is blinding, and it is so hot you can't go anywhere close to it, but it's there as life for you. It gives you heat, it gives you energy, it gives you life, it gives you the seasons, it gives you everything that you need in order to sustain yourself on this planet. So use what's available to you to observe. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Nuh alayhi salam is showing Muslims that they must look at nature, they must look at the beauty and ihsan in nature, and they must see all of this as ayat, signs of Allah's magnanimity and His generosity and His creativity and His everything that He does for us. Just look and observe and then think and reflect and contemplate. So, and then Muslims, as I've mentioned, people should do this. They should go out and look at these natural beauties that are right in front of us, and this is all in the sky, where we have no control over these bodies. So who regulates their command? Who regulates their amr? Who regulates their performance and their activities? It's all bil ghayb, it's the unseen, who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That should give you more than enough indication that Allah is here and He's sustaining our lives and He's doing everything for us to live, facilitate ourselves. وَاللَّهُ أَنْبَتَكُم مِّنَ الْأَرْضِ نَبَاتًا. Then Allah is the one who allows the plants to grow, who makes the plants to grow. Yeah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala causes the growth of the plants. Obviously, what is that? The rain does that, or the climate does that, or the weather does that. But since the Anbiya alayhi salam want to bring Tawheed into the dialogue, conversation with people, with Muslims and non-Muslims, Nuh alayhi salam uses the verb Wallahu ambatakum. Allah is the one who makes these plants grow. He is the one who does this. He has facilitated all of these natural conventions. He guides them, He controls them, and He allows them to function. So your honor and your appreciation should be for Allah. So they don't exist by themselves without someone controlling them. So now the benefits of plants growing, you can see. If there's rain and water and plants grow, there's life there. And there's a vegetation there, there's the life cycle that we know it, and then you have other species benefiting from the plants and the trees and the shrubs and the grass and the greenery and all of that. So this is something you just have to look. But the case, they don't look. People don't look. As in the previous ayah. Alam taraw, don't you see? Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying through Nuh alayhi salam, just take a look, see, observe, then think, reflect, contemplate, and then draw conclusions. Go through this process of reflection and tadabbur and tafakkur and all of that. ثم يعيدكم فيها ويخرجكم إخراجا. And then as you live on this earth and you see that throughout the seasons, there is a change in the vegetation, in the plants, in life. The plants come, they grow, they're green, they're harvested, and they die. They become brown and they die. But then 3 months later, 4 months later in the spring, all of a sudden they pop out again and they are revitalized and they're given a new life. So that should lead you to think that just because something, a natural being, has died, doesn't mean to say it cannot be resurrected. Allah is saying this ayah. See how this is done. ثُمَّ يُعِيدُكُمْ فِيهَا, and then He will bring you back from there. وَيُخْرِجُكُمْ إِخْرَاجًا, and He will extract you, another extraction, from the land and earth in which you're buried. So just as plants get buried and they die, but after the season comes of Allah's Amr in spring, they are revived. Likewise, when you're put into your grave, into the earth, although you died, but Allah will revive you and there will be resurrection. So use that to understand and justify the whole process of resurrection. You just don't die and that's the end of your lives. No. So this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now showing human beings what to think about and how to think, how to deduce and how to conclude. The rules of thinking are also laid down by wahi. It's not something that human beings have a free hand. I can think the way I want to without rules. So there are guardrails, and the guardrail is Tawheed. You must, as a thinker, philosopher, bring everything back to Allah. وَأَنَّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ الرُّجْعَىٰ. Everything goes back to your Lord. So when you're thinking, philosophizing, and fantasizing, hallucinating, dreaming, deducing, concluding, the final result must be Allah. You must end up with Allah. Then your thinking is correct. But if the final result is not Allah, then your thinking is incorrect. These are the guardrails for a man's and a human being's thinking. So he's not left to the wild imagination of human beings who don't have any idea of Tawheed and who have no desire to come back to Allah, as Allah is the one who creates initially, and He's also the one who resurrects after you die. So this is the beauty of having a prophetic model, Nuh alayhi salam's model of thinking. So prophets come to reform human action, physical action. They also come to reform human intellectual action and mental exercises. There are rules there, and you must be governed by those rules, as the plant is governed by the rules of nature, water, rain, seasons. Likewise, your mind also is guided by Allah's rules of thinking. Allah dictates the rules. He has given you a mind so that you think and you use it and you benefit from it. He has not given you a mind so that you waste it in hallucinations and in fantasies and all of that. So he wants you to use the ni'mah of your mind, of your mental abilities, but you follow the straight path. So when you're asking Allah to guide you, ihdina sirat al-mustaqim, on the right path, this sirat al-mustaqim applies to how you think, how you observe, what kind of worldview do you hold. It's not left to you and the so-called myopic commentators of the world who don't believe that there is life after death and who don't believe that Allah is the ultimate source of life and happiness. So this Nuh alayhi salam, as I said, this dialogue is going on over decades, over centuries. It's not a one-off event. He went there to the town hall and he went, no. This is time after time, year after year, decades after decades, centuries after centuries. Nuh alayhi salam is continuously teaching people, preaching people. So you can show the grit and the energy and the strength of Nuh alayhi salam's mental abilities that he's able to do this. والله ثم يعيدكم فيها ويخرجكم إخراجا والله جعل لكم الأرض بساطا. Allah is the one who has made for you the world a spread, an enormous spread. The spread is that you can plant, you can, domesticate animals, you can farm, you can build. It's all one vast spread that is for your benefit and your use. Amazing. You flatten the earth, although it's round, but you won't feel it's round. And although it moves and rotates on its axis, you won't feel the movement. It will be just like a very stable spread, a sheet, bisat, a sheet. And the sheet is not going to move around. But even though everything around the earth is in motion, the earth is in motion, and it should be that physically and geographically, you should not be able to do anything on this moving planet. But Allah has made it such that He allows you to move. Bisat Allah's ni'mah, supreme ni'mah. We take it for granted, but if God forbid there's an earthquake, when the earth moves, that's it. Nothing's going to stay stable. So Nuh alayhi salam is showing his people that there's innumerous in'amat and blessings and in'am that Allah gives you. Think about them. Make shukr to Allah for them. لِتَسْلُكُوا مِنْهَا سُبُلًا فِجَاجًا. And also the final result of this spread is that you're able to make roads and travel in these roads. Broad, fijaj, very broad, paths that you can build out of the earth. And so you have passages and you have, ravines and you have creeks and you have streams and you have so much on the earth that you simply cannot stop thanking Allah for the enormous blessings of, first of all, the earth, and second of all, the utility of the earth. Allah has made the utility of the earth subservient to your needs. It's taskhir. So there's something that you must be grateful for, because there's no other power that you can see that does this. So the earth is moving, and no other power is allowing the earth to move and rotate on its axis, and also rotate around the sun. Two motions. Okay? Yeah. But you won't feel it. And Allah has made it such that you won't feel it. So that's Allah's doing, because it's all bil ghaib. It's the unseen. You don't see anyone, pulling the strings behind the scenes. Okay? There's a stage there, but there are no strings being pulled that you can see. بِغَيْرِ عَمَدٍ تَرَوْنَهَا. You can't see them. So it's bil ghaib. Allah allows you to do this with the unseen ability and power and might and discretion of Allah. Yeah. So that is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using the genius of Nuh alayhi salam, his knowledge, his power of observation, deduction, and everything else. Nuh alayhi salam was one of the best debaters amongst the Anbiya alayhi salam. He's a great debater, as you can see here from the methodology he's introducing to his people. And you have to believe that his people were smart. intelligent, worldly wise, at least, not in terms of the akhirah. In terms of the akhirah, they are stupid. But in terms of how to understand the world and see the world and benefit from the world, I mean, they must have been a formidable community and civilization to be, there. Nuh alayhi salam's talking to them in a language that is very persuasive, very argumentative, and very debate-like. So they were smart enough to understand the dialogue and the conversation Nuh alayhi salam was having. And as I said, that it extended over decades and centuries. It wasn't in one night or 2 nights. Years and years and years of talking like this, because, as I mentioned, he went everywhere on earth where there were human beings everywhere. And that's why he had a long life. So he went everywhere. So now he's going to different people, different communities, different cultures, different norms, different languages, and different idiosyncrasies and everything. So he is able to articulate one message of Tawheed to so many different types of people. So that is how you get the enormity of barakah in the oneness and in the Tawheed. Anyway, this is Nuh alayhi salam. Then finally, after centuries of struggle and da'wah, trying to convince people, Nuh alayhi salam, is forced to believe, that reality is a reality. It's been 900 plus years. No one's budging, no one's listening, no one cares. And everybody is saying that you're lying and all that. So then he has to draw a conclusion himself. Nuh alayhi salam, as a human being, has to conclude that maybe there is an end to my mission. There's a beginning to my mission, and I've done that for 950 years. But perhaps there's an end to my mission. So now, unfortunately, he has to come to this conclusion with Allah's wahi. Allah's wahi. أوحي إلى نوح أنه لن يؤمن من قومك إلا من قد آمن. So it was revealed to Nuh that no one else will believe in you except those who have already believed. So when this khabar and news came to him through wahi, then he had to sit down and think of identifying his mission with this news from Allah that no one else is going to believe. So he sits and thinks and contemplates, maybe for several months, maybe for a year or two, only Allah knows. And he has to come to a very, very ugly conclusion. But it is real. So sometimes you have to accept the real and maneuver that way. قال نوح رب إنهم عصوني واتبعوا من لم يزده ماله وولده إلا خسارا. Oh my Lord, indeed they have disobeyed me. إنهم عصوني. They have disobeyed me. He doesn't say that they don't believe in you. He says they have disobeyed me as a Rasul. Disobedience to the human Rasul is kufr. So we as Muslims, especially living here in the USA, must identify Islam and kufr with belief in the Rasul, not just belief in Allah. Belief in Allah is tawheed. That's a given. But disobeying a Rasul, someone who has been sent as an ambassador of Allah, the Divine, that is the real kufr. No, that is kufr. It's not allowed. And that causes Allah to bring down punishment, as he will see later on. Innahum asawni, they have disobeyed me. They have disobeyed you, so they have disobeyed me. So disobedience now is attached to not following and obeying a human being, not the divine. because he is the Rasul of the divine. He is the ambassador of the divine. So that you must get over the hump of saying, we don't like human beings, we don't follow human. Well, in Nabuwa, in the Risala, you have to obey the Rasul and Allah's messenger. So get over the idea that we don't follow human beings. We do. قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي. Say, if you love Allah, then follow me as a human being. Yeah, so the human convention of Iman must be promoted in our communities so that they get the idea that we have to believe in Allah's hukum. Allah's hukums that follow this man. And then you can't say that he's a human being, why should I follow him? That's exactly what Iblis did. Make sajda to Adam. He said, why am I making sajda to him? You are God. Why am I making sajda to anyone else besides Allah? So now, unfortunately, that seems to be a common thread in the minds of many Muslims, especially here in the USA, in fact, throughout the world, where Muslims are educated through colleges and universities. They get this idea that somehow they are independent of any rules of thinking. So they become, what do you call it, arrogant and anarchists in the way they use their minds and the way they think. They don't employ the rules of Nabuwa when they have to think. They employ the rules of this very myopic thinking called Western thinking. So civilized thinking, critical evaluation. That we can think the way we want. So Allah here says through Nuh alayhi salam, they have disobeyed me. I am the criterion by which and with which they can be deemed as Muslim or non-Muslim. The human factor. Very critical for the people who are here who are smart mathematicians and scientists and engineers and God knows what. They say, I have my own mind. I don't need anybody's help to, understand how I must think. My worldview is based on me. So we say, no. Your worldview is based on the Rasul's worldview. Your view of life and haqiqah, reality, is based on Rasul's observation, not yours. So if the Rasul says something about what Allah has created, we have to believe him. We can't use our own discretion. So I don't believe him. He's a human being. That is pure kufr. Okay? So we have to take advantage of what Nuh alayhi salam is saying, that after 950 years, they simply disobey me. They disobey and they don't believe in the human convention that you have laid down. Meaning it is through your hukum that they have to believe me and believe in me, but they don't. وَاتَّبَعُونَ مَنْ لَمْ يَزِدْهُ مَالُهُ وَوَلَدُهُ إِلَّا خَسَارًا. And the other is that they follow only those who will increase them in their progeny, in their manpower, their children, and in their wealth. Meaning they're all about, you might call it, in today's terminology, capitalism. They're all capitalists. They want to see the P&L in their lives. What is the profit? What do I get if I believe in Islam? So there are two things. I believe in Islam, and Islam gives me nothing in return. I'm a Muslim, I'm struggling. I'm struggling to get a life. I'm struggling to get a wife. I'm struggling, even when I get a wife, I'm struggling. I'm struggling to get a job. I'm struggling with money. Even with money, I'm struggling. I'm struggling everywhere. So what has Islam done for me? There's no P&L, there's no profit, there's loss. Okay, so you're measuring belief in Allah and the Rasul according to money, wealth, manpower, children, honor, dignity. Meaning it must correspond to some worldly asset. Belief in Allah and the Rasul must provide a worldly asset, otherwise known as a secular asset. So that's where the atheism comes in. And that's where you override all the rules of Sharia that doesn't appeal to you in terms of the dunya. No, I can't do this. I can't do this. But for the believer who believes in the ghaib, as inshallah you will see, Ramadan, what benefit do you Muslims have when they stay hungry for 14 hours a day? No food, no drink, very little rest, and mashallah, they have to wake up for suhoor, and that spoils their sleep, and they don't get sleep after suhoor, and they have to wake up tired, miserable, then go to work. Where's the worldly benefit in fasting? So that is a sign of true belief in the ghaib. The ghaib means Allah's hukum is there, that's why you fast. And the ghaib has this power to motivate, control, and guide human beings outside of the dunya. Now, Muslims are no longer looking at the mundane or secular value of fasting. They all know that at the end of the day, I have to break my fast. But there's no worldly gain. Does it increase your stocks? Do you get more money? Does your mashallah employee give you a raise in Ramadan for fasting? What do you get? You get nothing. So then Allah said to Nuh alayhi salatu that they follow only those people that, what do you call it, decrease their worldly value in terms of the haqiqah, in terms of the akhirah. Yeah, they follow those people who only increases their loss in the dunya, in the mundane world. So this Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that this is unfortunately a common disease in all human beings. It's the disease in thinking the wrong way. Evaluating profit and loss according to what happens in the dunya is not the way you evaluate and judge Iman and following the Rasul, because those are not subject to the rules of the dunya. They're subject to the rules of Allah and Islam and the ghaib and the angels, the world of angels. Very necessary to understand. The angels are very happy when you are fasting. Very happy, very happy. The angels are very happy when you do salat. Angels are happy when you give sadaqah. So you may not be happy in the dunya, meaning people in the dunya won't be happy, but there's another creation in the universe that is extremely happy and delighted when you follow the Rasul. So you're not alone on this planet, on this earth. You're not alone in your existence. There are other beings who are very happy with what you do bil ghaib, from the unseen. So the unseen now generates this civilizational power to follow the hukum of Allah and follow the Rasul, even though there's no worldly benefit. And that's the beauty of Ramadan and the beauty of following the Rasul. Okay, why do I follow? The Rasul says, wake up for Fajr. And your nafs says, no, let me sleep a bit more. Some Muslims, mashallah, they're dedicated. They wake up for Fajr. And Allah will give them immense reward. The Rasul says, give zakat. And ordinary people say, why should I give zakat? It's going to decrease my wealth. But some Muslims, through Allah's fadl and tawfiq, they believe in the ghaib and they'll listen to the ghaib and they'll follow the hukum of the Rasul and they will give zakat and so on and so forth. So this one, Nuh alayhi salam is expressing now his candid feelings towards Allah. This is a conversation he is having with Allah. Right? So he's speaking to Allah directly as wahi is there and there's going to be bilateral communication. And he's saying to Allah that over the centuries they've disobeyed me, and they only obey those who decrease their value in the dunya. وَمَكَرُوا مَكَرًا كُبَّارًا. And they plot enormous plots, huge plots. They scheme, they strategize, they meet, they plan, they organize so much that they always say that let's fight these people, fight these believers, fight Muslims, fight those who want to save, Palestinians and the Muslims of Rohingya and the Muslims of China. And that they'll scheme, they'll plan, they'll organize, they'll spend billions of dollars scheming, strategizing, planning against Muslims throughout the world. So now Nuh alayhi salam is saying the same thing to Allah, that these people who disobey me, they spend time, money, assets, resources just to defy me, just to make sure I don't gain any momentum. Yeah, so this is history, basically, human history. Right? So you go and talk to a senator or congressman, they'll just stand there and say, Israel has the right to defend itself. The one statement, Muslims have to shut up. It's nothing to do. You're going to change their foreign policy? Forget about it. It's not happening. That's not changing. Means they makaru makran kubbara. They strategize and they plan and they execute and they do everything to make sure Allah's nur is not promoted in the world. So Nuh alayhi salam is saying the same thing for 9.5 centuries. They've done everything to fight me and to show that I will never be successful. And it seems the time now has come for me to decide how I can effect change. So it's a very sad episode in Nuh alayhi salam, what he is saying and doing now. It's very sad. It's not easy, because if you're responsible for people, you're responsible for the success of the people, you're responsible for the salvation of those people. But when Allah gives you news of something, then it is conclusive. It is what we call qat'i. When Allah says, لَن يُؤْمِنَ مِنْ قَوْمِكَ, that no one else is going to believe from your people, that is devastating news. And it breaks him down. He's literally in tears. What is this? There's no hope for anybody? Nope, no yu'min. Okay. So, the stamina, the strength you need to bear the news of disappointment is only in a Nabi. A non-Nabi can't handle this. Okay. Yeah, mashallah, many people write dreams. And God forbid, if there's bad news in the dream, I have to think 10 times before I can tell them it's not good for you. Because they don't have the intellectual, mental, physical strength to hear that bad news. Nadir. Sometimes I say, make dua, Allah protect you. Sometimes I give them a dua, read this, inshallah, Allah will take care of you. So that's just the way it is. In the olden days, in the early Muslims, the first 3 generations, we would just say the way it is. So people will come to Ibn Siri and say, I had a dream. He will say, you're going to die next week. Because they had the strength and stamina to listen to that. I can't say that today, because they'll be devastated. So people have all strange dreams, and you see all the maghibat of what people's lives are going to be and what's going to happen in their business, in their marriage, in their children. But we can't mention the bad news, because that is going to dampen their iman. So our first rule is to make sure their iman is not lost because of the khabar, because of the news. I mean, doctors, unfortunately, they do it all day, every day, twice a day, maybe 10 times a day. Yeah, you got cancer. That's it. You're going to die. You got 3 months to live. They're just callous. They have no affection for the patient. Total, what do you call it, doldrums. I got cancer, I'm going to die. They don't care. Maybe they do, I don't know. I can't speak for them. But definitely when it comes to receiving news about people's demise, yeah, that's devastating. I've been with them for 950 years and you're telling me that's it. End of story. Your book is closed. That's devastating. It is very grueling. It is very, very sad. So Nuh alayhi salam is now having this one-on-one conversation with Allah, and he's saying that they strategize, they plan, they do everything to defy me, everything to make sure they don't follow you and don't follow the Rasul and so on. And then on top of that, they justify their kufr, which is what really kills a Nabi's spirit, justifying kufr. So this is their kufr. وقالوا لا تذرن آلهتكم ولا تذرن ودا ولا سواعا ولا يغوث ويعوق ونسرا وقد أضلوا كثيرا ولا تزد الظالمين إلا ضلالا. They say that you will never leave your gods, your idols, آلهتكم, your gods. So Nuh alayhi salam obviously came after Idris alayhi salam and all the great Anbiya before him, who had enormous knowledge of celestial beings and enormous knowledge of how to do things in the world. So they had great engineers, they had great astronomers, they had great physicists, they had great mathematicians, and then, as I said, these people, they wanted to honor those scholars, and they started making statues, put them in the market square, and then afterwards Iblis came and showed them how to worship them. So they decided that in the universe there are certain powers of Allah's creation and creativity. Those powers are manifest in these idols. Okay. So they decided that these powers, we'll mention those as the list comes, are now residing in the bodies of these idols, which are handcrafted idols. Okay. So the first one is that they made an idol and they called it wood to show, immense power and creativity. And it was in the form of a perfect man. So they made a statue of a perfect man, then made it into an idol. So they said, we will never leave this idol of wood, and we will worship him every time we need, strength, manly strength. And they would worship the idol and do whatever they did around it with it and give food and whatever. And then they would say, now we have this worldly strength in us and we can do whatever you want to. So they are now saying that we will never leave this idol. You got it wrong, Nuh. You think that Allah is now above and beyond forms and statues and idols. We say no. Allah has decided to place His creativity and strength in this idol. So He wants us to worship these idols. So that's what we're going to do. You got the formula wrong. We got the formula right. So that's number one, the wood. One, and the second one was in the form of a fertile woman, Sūrah. That fertility comes from Allah, but that power of fertility is now inhabitant in the idol of Sūrah. And they would worship that idol if they wanted children and they wanted progeny and other gifts related to the family. So they concluded that fertility is a universal power that floats around the universe and the cosmos, and then it comes into this idol. And therefore, when we worship this idol, we get the power of fertility in our lives. And that is how we're going to be. وَلَا يَغُوث. And then we also have now an idol that is going to help us all the time. So when we need divine help and assistance, we will go to this idol that represents divine help and growth and ghiyath and assistance, which was in the form of a lion, no, a horse. Yaghouth was a horse. So they made a beautiful looking horse out of wood and stone. They carved it and they started to worship the horse. If we want something done, we'll worship Yaghouth and we'll get it done. And unfortunately, it could be that Allah tested them and then, maybe created signs where there was help, just to plan against them, makr. And then they said there's another strength in the cosmos, and that is called courage, bravery, and brute strength. So they made this into a lion. Ya'uq was a lion, formidable lion. So whenever they went into battle or they went into a dispute or whatever, they needed power over their enemies and all of that, they would worship Ya'uq. And so this is what Allah wants. Allah has placed His creativity and power of this force in this idol. And when we worship this idol, we receive that divine assistance. Right? And then they said that we also need foresight in life. We need vision. And for that, we have the perfect animal in the eagle. So they made a statue that looked like an eagle. The eagle is high flying, it has determination, it's foresighted, it can spot a prey miles away and then just dive into the prey like it was nothing, a tracking device. So then they would worship the eagle. So why these 5 now names mentioned here in the context of the Arab. The Quran is revealed to the Arab, right? Especially the Arabs of Makkah, the Jazeera, and also the Quraysh. So it just so happened that when Nuh alayhi salam's flood came, these idols became submerged under the water and they were hidden for generations around that area, the Arabian Peninsula. Many generations later, when the earth was uprooted and the people started to dig the land around them, so they excavated and they found these very same idols in and around the Arabian Peninsula. And then those people, nomads who found these idols, they started to worship these idols too. Many centuries, millenniums later, when they became unearthed. So that's why they mentioned. Meaning the Quraysh knew about these idols because they worshipped them. Or the Arabs, maybe not the Quraysh, some of the Quraysh did. The other Arabic tribes, they knew about these idols. So the Quran is now telling them, we know about these idols and we know their origins and we know why you worship them. And we know that they were wrong, the people of Nuh, and we know you're wrong. So just as they suffered a huge flood, you're going to suffer a huge punishment also. That's why these names are mentioned in the context of the people who received the Quran. It's not out of context. There's a reason why these ayat are mentioned. and these names are mentioned. And they have a historical reference in the minds of the audience of the Quran, that the audience knows, oh, okay, how does the Quran know about all of these things? And why is the Quran saying that the people of Nuh worship these idols? And why is the Quran saying that the people of Nuh were destroyed because they worshipped idols? To give them a warning. So that is how you must see these ayat. وَقَدْ أَضَلُّوا كَثِيرًا. And they have misled so many other human beings, and they have, caused them to be astray, go astray, and they are going to cause them to be destroyed. وَلَا تَزِدِ الظَّالِمِينَ إِلَّا ضَلَالًا. And you, Allah, through your cosmic realities and affairs, you're not going to increase the unjust except in misguidance. So somebody who is innately unjust, injustice here means shirk, because the people of Nuh committed the worst injustice, which is associating partners with Allah, as the Quran says, "Inna shirka la dhulmun azim." Shirk, or associating partner with Allah, is the tremendous injustice. So it's not injustice against human beings, it is injustice against Allah Himself. And when these people worship idols, then you will only increase them in the cosmic way in making them more stubborn and loyal and devoted to their idols. And this is Nuh alayhi salam's observation. And he is saying this as a, lamenting in front of Allah that this is what is happening, and you are telling me they won't believe anymore. So no, I have to take the next step, which he will do, and we'll talk about it next time we meet, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallah wa bihamdihi. نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين. Last time will come in at 12:10, I guess. If you want to wait until then, that is fine. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.